We're going to start off 2025 strong with what I call the Jay Special. Now, this is a short rant that ultimately will not change anything, but might make me feel better for about 20 minutes. And that is on when you love something, or when you're a fan of something, and then it becomes popular. Now, this can also apply to even if you're not a fan of something, and you find it, and then all of a sudden everyone loves it. While I am glad that people enjoy things, and this can be about many different things, I'm going to probably show some gameplay and some stuff in the background, but while I am glad that someone else has found that thing and is having a good time, so many negatives come with this, which is unfortunate. You know, growing up, I was always told that you don't gatekeep stuff because it's toxic and stupid, and then we're right back to the days of you're a nerd, you get shoved in your locker, or you get a swirly, you know, like the generation slightly before me. Like if you were into video games, nerdy stuff, comic books, etc. Even in my generation, you were bullied. But before that, you were brutalized. I don't want things to go back to that. But I also think that when you are a fan of something, or when something catches this traction and gets huge, you have a lot of problems with it. You have people coming in trying to scalp the products to make money off of fans who are old and new, who maybe don't know any better or missed out on something. You have all this activism that will rush to whatever that thing is to change it, genuinely on purpose just to change it, not for the sake of the story or anything. And you also have, I would say, a built-in audience that starts to enable bad business practices because they're just going to buy it no matter what. So I want to talk about some of these things today. If you enjoy the video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think down below. I do have a question for you though, which is, and we're probably all going to sound like hipsters in the comments and stuff, but I think it's interesting. What is a franchise, brand, series, whatever, that you think was kind of ruined by becoming mainstream? You know, that you think became so popular, it became so much bigger, maybe in waves, maybe in one foul swoop, whatever, and then that thing went downhill. I can think of quite a few. One of the first ones that comes to my mind is actually Call of Duty. And this is sort of a stream of consciousness video, so I don't have an outline here, but a very brief example of that is the fact that as it became more popular in the gaming space, its quality began to decline. Because as you had more and more and more and more buy-in, you had these people who were going to buy it no matter what. And you can see the same thing with sports games. All of a sudden, you don't have to try as hard. You know, and you look at every game in the Call of Duty franchise for like the last 5 games, and it's like there's some increasingly bad business practice in it that people enabled by continuing to buy those things. And it always starts small, you know, and when it starts small, it usually doesn't even matter. Things like small in-game purchases. Oh, somebody wants to buy a gun camouflage? Who cares? Oh, somebody wants to buy a skin for their character? Who cares? And then the next thing you know, it's like every cool gun and every cool character is locked behind multiple purchases. You're even seeing that now with that franchise, with them having basically multiple battle passes at once. Something I've never really seen before in a game. I'm sure it's been a thing, but what I mean is like concurrent battle passes going. It's like there's multiple of that feature at the same time. And one of the big reasons for that is because you had this audience that would continue to buy the games no matter what, right? But it doesn't stop there. Like a lot of things will float off of that success for a while, but then people start to lose interest. You know, Star Wars is a great example of that. No matter what you think of it, you could be the biggest #1 fan of The Acolyte ever. You could be the biggest fan of The Last Jedi ever. You could be the biggest fan of some other project that's, I don't know what you'd say, like contentious, that people are torn on. And you still can't deny that, like, as the brand has gone on, there have been more and more people that have fallen off of caring because they've just gotten frustrated, right? So sometimes that happens too, where it's like you bank on that built-in audience and they slowly trickle out from the practices over time, then they lose interest. Another one that I've seen too with this is actually Sonic. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog is huge right now, especially, you know, after Sonic 2, I would say the movie, it was pretty big again. But with Sonic 3, the movie, it's like everybody and their great-grandma is collecting Sonic comic books, collecting Sonic video games, etc. Video games that should be worth $30 maximum, I've seen going for hundreds of dollars. things like the Shadow the Hedgehog video game on GameCube and PS2, which people should stop lying to themselves, is a game that probably only I enjoyed growing up. Like, a lot of people hate the game, so I know people are not buying it for the sake of the gameplay. I was like the only one, I feel like, growing up who enjoyed that, and I know it's an edgy thing, but I'm seeing that kind of game going for like $200 on eBay, and it's like, it's only doing that because that movie just came out, right? So you have these people swooping in too on the popularity of that thing in order to make a quick buck off of people that are either new fans and they don't know any better. You know, they're like, oh wow, these retro games are expensive, but they don't know that 6 months ago they could have logged on and bought it for $20. You know, they don't know any better. So you're trying to take advantage of them, and you're also trying to take advantage of like the hardcore old fans who maybe are still trying to fill out their collection of stuff. Maybe they're like, you know, hey, I just got through college, I'd like to start collecting some retro games I grew up with. Oh, let's go to Shadow the Hedgehog. Wow, $200. Why? Well, the reason for why is just because people swooped in to make money off of it. You know, it's just that unchecked capitalism. It's really something that would be totally fine if people weren't so damn greedy. I'm not even saying you can't make a profit off something. Like, I understand if, you know, something was $20 before a movie and now it's like 40. Okay, yeah, this is quite a jump. This is like doubled in value. But I get it to an extent. You know, it's supply and demand. But what I don't understand is when it's genuine price gouging. And I've seen this a lot with the retro video game community too, and I've seen experiences talked about where even someone will try and sell something for cheaper, depending on the game, and other eBay sellers will sometimes contact that person and say, hey, you're driving down the value of the game. And when you have that kind of thing going on, to me, it's like, oh, you guys don't care about video games. All you care about is money. That's it. You don't even care about both. You only care about money. And you see the people as a potential revenue source. You don't see it the way I see it when I sell a game. Like, if I sell a game or a comic or a movie or something like that, usually it's one, to save space, and two, I'm also hoping that whoever gets that enjoys it as much as me. You know, I always try and either cut a deal on something where it's mutually beneficial, or I just straight up give someone a deal on something because I know how excited I would be to enjoy that thing. Maybe that's why I'm not rich, you know, because I like people's excitement. But I think it's unfortunate that this phenomenon, it leads to not only companies taking advantage of people's excitement, like I talked about, you know, with the quality of things going downhill a lot of times as they become mainstream, but also these sellers taking advantage of people's excitement, whether they be old or new fans. And when it comes to fans, you also have a divide in whatever the fandom is when something all of a sudden becomes popular. You know, when I was a kid, you were made fun of for liking the Star Wars prequels. That is just the truth. If you enjoyed Anakin Skywalker or you enjoyed that story or anything like that, you were mocked. People said that's stupid. Even the other Star Wars fans, they would say, oh, the original trilogy is great, but this is a piece of garbage and you're an idiot for liking it. But now it's popular. And so now you have this weird divide where you also have people like me, where there's like a small amount of animosity in the back of your head where you're thinking like, I'm glad people like this, but where were you 20 years ago? You know, where were you back when these things were getting people bullied? You know, those are the kinds of questions I have when something becomes popular. And sometimes it is as simple as somebody just didn't discover something, but there's also a lot of bandwagoning. You know, I've seen that around a lot of different things, whether it be anime, games, movies, whatever. You gotta remember, like I said a few times here, growing up in the 90s and 2000s, you were not popular for liking games. You could have friends, you absolutely could, and there was really fun experiences. But, you know, like for me, I know for sure, you know, it's like if you were a nerdy guy, you were going to get less dates, you were going to have less friends, and those things did correlate with your interests, you know, whereas if you were more into sports and stuff like that, it was a little easier to socialize. And I think it's unfortunate because you have these things all becoming mainstream now, right? In a good way in some ways, where it's ended a lot of that bullying. You know, it's like whether you are the captain of the football team or you are in honors advanced placement English with 5-inch thick glasses and the nasaliest voice in the world, you've probably both played a video game. So there's a bit of an equalizer there that I think is cool, and I like that. But at the same time, when you get these things, it also causes problems like one I mentioned in the intro, which is the product changing. You know, I mentioned Star Wars a couple of times, and I am not as hard on Star Wars, like modern Star Wars, as a lot of people are. So keep that in mind. There are things I've liked that it seems like nobody else has. But I will say this. You can very clearly tell that a lot of people have tried to enter the brand to talk about what they want to talk about, not because they love Star Wars. And I see this all the time with different brands. I see this all the time with different things that become mainstream, is you have people look at that, and these are people that, when we see religious people do this, you know, and I'm someone who believes in God, but when we see religious people do this, like we see Christians or things like that, and they try and like get into a specific brand and then make it more like they want. A lot of times in the past we've said, well, now hold on, that's not what that is, right? You know, you're changing it for the sake of your belief. You're not changing it based on what's good for the story or what it was. You're just changing it to make it like you. And we always saw that in the past, but for some reason nowadays, if you point this out, if you point out like, hey, it seems like X creator got involved in this brand because of their political beliefs, and they wanted to use it as a vehicle for those beliefs, not because they like it, all of a sudden you have all these labels like misogynist, hater, what's the other one? It's like you're grifting off of those topics, etc. And what sucks is some people do that. You know, you have the other extreme where you have people not caring, and they will make a mountain out of a molehill out of everything, right? It'll be like, hey, there's a black guy in that movie, that's woke, that's terrible. So you have these extremes that end up fighting each other and butting heads on whatever the popular thing is too. You know, we even see this with things like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, when Avatar: The Last Airbender came back, I had never watched it growing up. I got into it as a new fan. Now, I didn't pretend I was an expert over other people who had already liked it or anything like that, but I just got into it when it was kind of coming back and becoming popular again, I believe, on Netflix and streaming and stuff a few years ago. And my wife, Jill, had been into it forever, you know? And her experience growing up with that was that a lot of people were not nice about it, especially the Legend of Korra show. And my experience with that was very different, right? But when you also get to like the live actions and stuff like that, they start changing random things. And I noticed that when old fans pointed this out and they said, hey, you know, you're doing this live action, you're randomly changing stuff, there's no point to this. All of a sudden you have all these labels flying like, oh, well, you're a hater, or you're not a real fan, or you're a misogynist or whatever. And it's like, no, this is just somebody who grew up watching that thing. They just like it. They just care about it, right? They probably care about it more than a lot of people who worked on it. And it's unfortunate because it hits this point where it's like you can't talk about anything. And I think that people weaponize that. You know, I think on both extremes, people will weaponize the tiniest little thing and try and turn it into a war, like a tiny change or something like that. But then you also have people who will weaponize the idea where you try and say something about the thing you like that you feel is going downhill because it's being changed by these people to mean whatever they want it to mean. And all of a sudden all these labels are hitting you, and so people shut up because they don't want to be a racist or misogynist or whatever, so they just be quiet and back off and kind of recede from the fandom. You even see a lot of this with things like Magic the Gathering, you know, as there's been these controversies over the years, how many people have just kind of dropped the game because they're like, all right, well, this is clearly not marketed towards me anymore. And this stuff, it all really does lead to these companies want to be as lazy as possible in a lot of cases, shotgun approach to hit as many consumers as possible. They don't view it as fans, they view it as consumers. Other people come in using those consumers and they want them to consume their message, not enjoy what the thing is and be part of a community. And then these vultures sweep in and try and make an extra $200 off of it because they're greedy bastards. And so it's such a frustrating situation where when you like something that becomes popular, in so many ways, it is in danger of really falling off, which sucks because at the same time, if your thing isn't popular enough, it's not going to continue. You know, there's not going to be any more of it. It's like a rock and a hard place. You know, I will say one of the things that did make me think of this, like I said before, I said it was Sonic. It wasn't just the games. You know, when Sonic 3 came out, I was somebody who grew up collecting the comic books, the old ones, like the Archie ones. And I went to look at, okay, how much are these? And you can correlate a massive spike really around the months up to and after these movie releases and these comics being just insanely expensive because people jack those prices up to take advantage of people. And it's just, I don't know, all of these things are really unfortunate to me. Again, I know that it's not going to change anything, but it just makes me sad. Because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be able to enjoy these things. Life is hard enough without the entertainment making it harder. And I feel a lot of times now like these things are treated like season tickets to a sports team. You know, where it's like you try and price gouge that person for as much as possible because you know they're very passionate. You're not trying to give them a deal. You're not trying to make things good for them in any way. It's how little can we give you and how much can we take from you. And it just really bums me out. I think that how little can I give you and how much can I take from you idea, it sums up all of these groups. You know, all of the groups that I talked about today, I think they can kind of be summed up with that idea. Giving you the littlest amount possible and taking as much as possible from you. And I just think that's sad because it seems like so many things in the world have gone that direction. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. There are other things that certainly suck about this topic, but I don't want to ramble on for, 25 minutes, so we'll leave it there. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content. Not all my videos are going out to everybody, especially this time of year, so I appreciate if you check back on the channel, and I have other channels in the description down below. Also, we do have our own Fortnite code, which is DJAY123, and a store, cosmobunny.shop, where you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your first order for transformative resin art pieces, coasters, keychains, trays, and more made from recycled paper. We don't print images. We take paper that is going in landfills, the trash, etc. What we do is we turn some of it into transformative art, and we recycle the rest, and we have a good time doing it. So I hope you'll check that out. Hope you enjoy it. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.